But now I think it's time that we talk about our Daytona 500 champion, Mr. Michael McDowell. What a story. Winning his first race in 358 starts, the second most in series history by a driver before their first win since Michael Waltrip did it 20 years ago at the Daytona 500. Incredible story. And 20 years later, just ironic how that all turns out. But Michael McDowell, man, what a story. He's been a journeyman driver most of his career, has had many opportunities with multiple race teams, and has just been kind of bouncing around, but has found a home at Front Row Motorsports, I think, driving there for the past 3 or so years now, I would say. And Michael McDowell has always been a sneaky super speedway racer. I feel like every time we talk about dark horses or guys, that don't necessarily perform best on other tracks, primarily because of the equipment that they're in, Michael McDowell is one of those drivers whose name is getting mentioned, I feel like, in every super speedway race. And Front Row Motorsports is a race team that has prioritized their super speedway program because of the opportunity that it presents for a team like them. Typically top 20, 25 team on most weekends. But Front Row Motorsports, I think, has developed into, I don't want to say a powerhouse super speedway team, but quite a well-rounded super speedway program that they have. And, for this team, this has got to be so monumental. And I want to look at it from this perspective. 2020, a season that was dictated by COVID-19, I cannot begin to believe the substantial financial impact that this has, not only on Michael McDowell's career, but on Front Row Motorsports as a whole. We look at 2020 and the financial burden that COVID placed on the series and on race teams, much like Front Row Motorsports. We saw Levine Family Racing shut their doors. We saw Germain Racing shut their doors because of the financial burdens that they were feeling. Front Row Motorsports, Front Row Motorsports seems like an intact team, but I think there were a lot of questions heading into the future, unsure of what COVID was going to look like, especially in 2021, and obviously nobody knows what's going to happen. I think there were a lot of questions for teams like Front Row Motorsports and their possible futures. And NASCAR is one sport where, the money, the finances, the winners' purses, they, I feel like, are rarely discussed in mainstream NASCAR news compared to other sports. You look at the NFL and NBA, these guys are they are absolutely, praised for these, for their contracts. And it's all about the contracts. It's all about the history and signing these record deals, right? It's not like that in NASCAR. You never hear that stuff. So I just can't begin to wonder how monumental this is for Front Row Motorsports coming out of the gates and driving one hell of a race. This wasn't just some fluke, by the way. He didn't steal it. He wheeled it. And Michael McDowell deserves this win 100%. Quite a popular win amongst drivers as well. Let's pull up some tweets here. So much praise. Denny Hamlin was one of the first. Quote, "Tonight's win was no fluke. Wasn't an anyone can win type race. He's up front time and time again at these SS races. Well earned and well deserved. Congrats." Michael Waltrip, "Told you love was back in the air at Love's Travel Stop. Wins on Valentine's Day. McDriver and I love love. Congrats, buddy, and happy Valentine's Day." Joey Logano had some words. "So close, bummed we didn't cross the finish line first tonight, but glad it was a Ford in victory lane, and I'm happy for Michael McDowell on his huge Daytona 500 victory." I mean, this was one of the more popular wins amongst the garage, I feel, in quite a while. And we are seeing many drivers in public praise Michael McDowell and give him the credit that he truly deserves. Really, really awesome. And I'll tell you, you keep an eye on this 34 team. And I'd start with next week, because we're heading to the Daytona road course. We're still unsure how NASCAR is going to determine the qualifying orders. We still have 28 one-day shows this year. Unsure of how NASCAR is going to do their qualifying, if they're going to do a random sample, if they're going to introduce another performance-based model like they did last year. I'm not sure. But all I can tell you is, for the foreseeable future, Michael McDowell is in a good spot. We're heading to the Daytona road course, like I said. McDowell is I would call stout road racer as well. He's a winner at Road America in the Xfinity Series a few years ago. Finished top 10 at the Daytona road course last year. So I think that there's nice opportunity for this 34 team heading into this upcoming weekend. And I wouldn't sleep on them. We expect this team will finish top 30 in points to ultimately make the playoffs. So I hope this team shakes things up. I hope that we see some strategy, and I hope that we are able to see this team maybe put themselves in a position to capitalize on some top 10 runs, some top 15 runs. We want to see Front Row Motorsports now be competitive. We don't want to just look at them as some team that's going to take a playoff spot away from another deserving driver. Michael McDowell deserved this win. This team deserved this win. They drove one hell of the race. They were up there for the most part all day. So it's really deserved, and I hope that this team is able to now go into this season with that mindset. Let's work on the car. Let's be strategic. Let's be out of the box and try and capitalize on as many points as we can to compete with some of these big boys possibly in the playoffs. It's a long shot, but I would keep your eye out on this 34 team and see how their season is now dictated with this win. But with that said, I also want to congratulate Clayton Hughes, former spotter of the 19 car, and Martin Truex Jr. And this was really interesting. I did not see this or hear about this, but Martin Truex Jr. decided to part ways with Clayton Hughes this year because, quote, to try and be better on speedways. Wow, that didn't seem to work out for you too much, Truex, did you?